Hello and welcome to the Final Couplet Christmas special. Hooray! Today I have with me the guest I had last year. He was so good, he had to come on again. It's Kaffe Keating, the actor, writer extraordinaire, Shakespeare knowledge like you've never seen or heard before. It is an absolute pleasure to have him back on the podcast, and I hope you enjoy. Hello, Kaffe.
Hello, Theo.
Great to have you back.
Great to be back.
How's your year been?
It's been good. It's been a long wait for this moment.
Yeah, really.
My whole year has basically been waiting to record the next Final Couplet Christmas podcast.
Wow,
And
that's such good news.
Finally, the day's here.
Kaffe,
Yes.
you have brought with you... I actually don't know what you've brought with you. I said, Kaffe, bring stuff with you.
And so I have, Theo.
Fantastic.
So, as we're all, I imagine, aware, you and the listeners alike, there is a song called The 12 Days of Christmas.
I've heard of it.
And everyone's got to try and remember what all the things are, and you sing it backwards, and it's all a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So I've taken that song and tried to apply it to Shakespeare.
Wow.
Now, this song was not written in Shakespeare's time. It was popularised much later.
Interesting.
So that's not linked to Shakespeare.
Okay.
It's not about anything to do with Shakespeare, but I have crowbarred Shakespearean references into it.
Yeah, okay, nice.
All right.
Fantastic.
So
I'm
the reason,
excited.
so the 12 Days of Christmas, because I always found this confusing that it doesn't lead up to Christmas Day, but the 12 Days of Christmas are from the 25th, which is supposedly when Jesus was born, and it took 12 days for the three wise men to get there. Or the wise men to get
to the...
to arrive. So it's their...
I was going to say cottage, but...
the
barn.
Famously a barn.
Famously a barn, not a cottage.
Not a cottage. It would be like a barn conversion.
Yeah, barn. Yeah, okay.
Sorry, there's no room at the inn. We do have the barn conversion. It's an Airbnb. It's slightly
lovely,
more expensive,
actually.
but it's really nice.
Actually, that's quite interesting. I didn't know it took them 12. So
That's what the 12
imagine
Days
them
of
there at
Christmas
the
are.
birth.
No, well, so do we all. But actually,
Wow.
12 days later, they
It's a long
showed up.
time,
It
actually.
took a long time with their frankincense and stuff.
Yeah. It was worth it, though.
So that's what the 12... Well, yeah.
Lovely presents.
Bit of gold.
Lovely.
The gold's the one
Gold's the best one.
you'd be more
Yeah, you
interested
don't,
in.
Frankincense,
Bit of
take it or
myrrh.
leave it.
I mean, the
Myrrh.
other two must have been really annoyed.
Yeah, what, with the gold?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
what have you brought? I brought gold.
Yeah, literally the best.
Mate, that's
Yeah.
just throwing money at the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You don't put any
actually.
thought into that, and that's the one everyone's going to want. Anyway, we're getting sidetracked. So that's where the 12 Days of Christmas come from. And as we know, the way the carol works is, on each day of Christmas, your true love
Yeah.
brings you something. So on the 12th day of Christmas, we're going to work backwards, and we're going to do all 12. What did your lover bring you?
12 days of Christmas. On Christmas?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
On the 12th day of Christmas.
On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 12... Oh, wow. We're working backwards.
Yeah. It's going to get easier.
Ooh.
Drummers drumming.
Obviously.
Of course, drummers drumming.
Insane gift.
So 12 drummers drumming.
Well, too much.
Yeah.
I don't even want
This is
one
on the
drummer
6th
drumming.
of January. Like, what's
Yeah,
going on?
Nightmare.
I don't
you got
need
hangover.
this. The link is, so drums were used in the Shakespearean theatre for special effects. So there's lots of storms in Shakespeare. Famously, there's one in King Lear and the Tempest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they would use drums. They would also sometimes roll a cannonball from one end to the other of the like higher section, so that would make a thundering sound.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's quite imaginative.
Yeah.
And they needed lightning, so they would have lightning flashes. They would throw like a powder made of resin into a candle flame, which would then go.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I don't know why we don't do this now.
We should do that now.
It's so much better than just like, oh, it's a projector.
That's great.
You know? They made lightning bolts, something called a swivel, which a wire would go from the roof to the floor. They'd fix a firecracker to it, and they'd light it when they wanted the effect, and it would shoot up the wire, making sparks
That
and stuff,
is
and they would
great.
look like a bolt of lightning.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had sort of special effects.
Yeah. Well, there was one time, though, because you've got to remember this is a wooden theatre.
Yeah, thatched roof as well. Yeah.
Well, and famously, on the 29th of June, 1613, the Globe burned down.
Right, and it was because of the special effects?
It was because of a cannon that got fired.
Aye.
There was no cannonball, but it was real gunpowder which set fire to this wadding stuff that hit the thatch and burned it down.
You hate to hear that.
You just hate to hear about it.
Was it worth it? Maybe it was worth it.
I don't know.
Hell of an experience to be there.
Yeah. And you're not allowed to make any buildings with thatched roofs in London anymore after the Great Fire of London. The only one that's allowed is the Globe Theatre, which, as we now know, is right next to the Sam Wanamaker Theatre, which is lit exclusively with candles. So that's 12 drummers drumming. This is what I've done.
That's good.
11 more. Let's go.
11 more. Here we go. 11 swans?
No, swans later.
No.
Pipers piping. So the last line of Much Ado About Nothing is Benedict, and he says, "Strike up pipers." And everybody, a lot of people who perform Much Ado About Nothing or go and see it feel like it ends quite abruptly, because basically, like, everything gets sewn up quite quickly. The penultimate person to come in is a messenger saying that the baddie, Don John, has been caught and what should we do with him. Benedict doesn't let the actual prince answer the question and just says, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Let's have a dance. Strike up pipers. And everyone's like,
Strike up pipers is the last line.
That's the last line of the whole play.
Wild.
People, have wondered about this. But if you look at the first folio, the original printed version,
yeah,
that scene is squeezed into as little space as it can be. So the last stage direction is just the word dance, and it's on the same line as Strike Up Pipers. It normally would be the line before. So there's theories that actually the guy who was in the print shop putting all the letters out didn't want to go onto a new piece of paper.
Couldn't be bothered.
So just sort of cut a bit himself.
That's
why the play ends so abruptly, because he was going to run out of space.
Oh my God.
He'd done his maths wrong.
I love that with the folios. Like, so much could have changed, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you realise how much of all the stuff that we think of as, like, came directly from Shakespeare's pen. Like, there were so many people in between Shakespeare writing it and us reading it now.
Yeah.
Right. 10.
Oh, I really...
Lords are leaping, Theo. Lords are leaping, all right?
Lords are leaping is a good one.
You'll remember this from now on, though. So I looked up how many characters in Shakespeare are just called Lord. Disappointingly, there are only 9. I really thought there were going to be 10, and I counted them.
That would have been so
There were 9. I mean, I used the internet for this. I didn't, like, go through...
You read
I'm committed, but I'm not that committed. Yeah, just counting. Yeah, I've reread the entirety of Shakespeare's canon for this.
Well, you did have a year.
I had a whole year. Yeah.
Come on.
The word Lord is used over 3,000 times, though, in all of the plays.
That's a lot.
Because everybody's my lord.
Yeah.
And Shakespeare's company was originally known as the Lord Chamberlain's Men.
Yes.
Which you may know already.
Yes.
I'm sure you do. Their patron he held the position of being the Lord Chamberlain, who was in charge of entertainment and censorship.
Interesting.
So I don't know if that was handy.
They don't usually come hand in hand, those two.
Well, yeah. Well, this was the thing. This is because you find in Shakespeare's plays, like, he's got to be quite careful. Whenever he's talking about anything in modern day to him, it's always set in a country far away.
Right.
So it's Othello or Romeo and Juliet. Yeah. It's always like, over there in Europe, they do all this stuff. But
yeah.
Or if it's set in England, it's always really long ago. And the only one that isn't that really is Henry VIII, and it's quite boring as a result, because he didn't want to upset Elizabeth because she'd have a go at him. On the 9th day of Christmas, Theo, what did you get?
Are we on swans yet?
No, ladies dancing.
Ladies dancing.
Okay, so in terms of dancing, there would always be a jig at the end of the performance, and they still do that at the Globe today.
Yeah.
Well, the reason for this back then, it was meant to bring the mood back up, potentially, after, like, all
the death and
all
stuff.
the death.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's the end of, Much Ado About Nothing, Strike Up Pipers, that lends itself to a little dance anyway, and everything's ended quite nicely. But you've got to remember, like, it's theatre during the day, and there's no curtain, so it'd be very awkward. At the end of Hamlet, when everyone's dead, how do you get everybody off? They can't just walk off.
Yeah.
So having a little dance there,
that's true.
That's what they did. All the dead people get up and dance.
Why not?
Just as a real bring people back to happy joy. So there we go.
Wow, nice.
Right, 8 maids are milking.
8 maids are milking.
Yeah.
Where are you going with this one?
So there are only 2 mentions.
I like how you didn't even ask me if I knew that one.
No, I know.
What if I did? I didn't, but what if I did?
Okay, I won't give you them.
Ridiculous.
I'll make sure you guess them.
Okay, 8 maids are milking.
Yeah. That is your favourite one as well, isn't
That
it?
is my favourite one.
And ironically, this was the hardest one to find any links to Shakespeare.
I'm not surprised, to be honest.
It gets less tenuous in a minute. This is the most tenuous one.
Where are you going?
So there are 2 mentions of milkmaids in the whole of Shakespeare.
Good to hear.
One in...
Representation.
Yeah. Well, only 2. And you think quite an important part of Tudor,
to be
Tudor
fair.
life.
Yeah.
Milk.
Yeah. Used in a lot of things.
Yeah, and milk's talked about quite a lot.
But not the
But
maids.
not the maids. So...
Rubbish, that.
Yeah. One's in Measure for Measure and the other one's in...
That's my doorbell.
That's your doorbell.
Cheers, everyone.
Maybe just as well.
Yeah, there was a milkmaid at the door.
That was a milkmaid.
Yeah.
Asking for more representation in Shakespeare's works.
Yeah, exactly.
And right she was.
Right she was. Anyway, 2 mentions of milkmaids.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want a bonus fact about milkmaids, which has nothing to do with Shakespeare?
Why the hell not?
I'll say this in a way that it can be cut out.
When you sell it like that.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, no, it's actually very interesting. In 1796, this is 180 years after Shakespeare's death, vaccines were discovered by a fellow called Dr. Edward Jenner after noticing that milkmaids who had cowpox, which is something you'd easily catch from milking the cows, didn't then catch smallpox, which was obviously a big deal at the time.
Right.
And this led him to go, oh, if you've already had something similar, that stops you from getting it in a bad way.
Wow.
And then that gave him the idea for vaccines. And vacca is the Latin for cow, which is where the word vaccine comes from.
Wow.
That's a little bonus fact for the listeners.
That is a good bonus fact.
That's a little bonus
I like
fact.
that a lot.
There you
That's
go.
very good. Okay, what are we on?
7.
7.
Is your favourite
swans.
one? Yeah.
It's 7 swans.
We're on the
swanning.
swans.
What are they doing? Swanning?
They're swimming.
Swimming.
Swans are swimming.
Swans are swimming.
Yeah. And Shakespeare was known as the Swan of Avon.
Was he?
Well, he was referred to it by a friend of the podcast, Ben Johnson.
Ah, Ben Johnson.
Old Ben Johnson, old Benny boy.
Lovely old Ben.
So at the start of the first folio, there's a poem basically talking about Shakespeare, and he calls him...
Written by Ben Johnson?
Yes. And he calls him the Swan of Avon.
Wow.
Avon, obviously,
what a compliment.
Being the river that Stratford is on. And people think, well, maybe it was referring to this being like Shakespeare's swan song, which is like the ancient Greeks thought that swans didn't sing until they died and then sang this beautiful song. And it's also maybe the thought that Apollo, who was the god of poetry, got turned into a swan. And so Homer was called the Swan of Meander.
Right, okay.
Which is a place.
What, Meander's a place?
He's just meandering.
He's not
around.
meandering about.
Yeah,
yeah.
Just a meandering swan.
The Swan of Meander.
Yeah. The Swan of Meander. And Virgil was called the Mantuan Swan. So maybe it was like he's like the reincarnation of Apollo.
Wow. Ben Johnson, what a compliment. I'd love to be called the Swan of
Well, there we go. So, he was nice.
He was a nice guy.
He was nice about him.
Nice about him, at least, yeah.
Yeah, after he was dead for 6 years.
Oh, yeah, because he couldn't even see that compliment.
No.
Which is a shame, which is why we need to compliment people while they're still alive.
Exactly. 6.
6.
On the 6th day of Christmas.
6. On the,
They're similar to swans.
6 geese?
Yes. And what are they doing? They're a-laying.
They're a-laying.
They are a-laying.
They're a-laying.
And you've heard the phrase wild goose chase.
Oh, yeah.
The first reference to this that we have is in Romeo and Juliet by old Shakespeare. Yeah, Mercutio says it. So he's having this little very witty banter.
Is it?
Yeah, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to do on stage. I've had to do it before.
Right,
and I didn't really know what I was saying. I was playing Mercutio and I said this line, "Nay, if thy wits run the wild goose chase, I have done. For thou hast more of the wild goose in one of thy wits than I am sure I have in my whole 5.
Do people laugh at that?
People laugh at it in the way that they laugh at stuff in Shakespeare because they feel like they have to.
Yeah, right. They're not actually.
It's an
finding
intellectual
that funny,
exercise rather than actually getting it.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah. Well, the reason why Elizabethan audiences might have found it funny was because, well, yeah, or would have at least understood it, was that a wild goose chase was not chasing a wild goose around. It was a type of horse race in which the horses would follow a lead horse in like an arrowhead, like how geese fly. Oh. So it was a wild goose chase, not a wild goose chase. We're getting there now.
5. Now 5, I know.
Come on.
5's the most iconic one.
What is it?
5 gold rings.
Absolutely. Everyone's favourite one.
Everyone's favourite one.
Is a little story, a little mystery.
Ooh.
In 1810, a farm labourer called Mrs. Martin. She was working in the fields and she found a golden signet ring with the initials WS carved into it.
William Shakespeare.
Well, she was working on fields which were once owned by William Shakespeare.
Wow. What a find.
Yeah, so she cleaned it in nitric acid. I don't know where she got the nitric
Where's
acid
she getting that from?
but it's lucky that it was gold, because if it was silver, it would have just dissolved. So a solicitor buys it off her for 36 shillings. Which,
see, that seems cheap.
Well, it's about 83 quid today.
I guess back then, probably
I think
quite
she
a
got
lot.
diddled there.
But
I think she
now
could have sold that for a
insane.
lot more.
Yeah, you'd see that on eBay for millions.
Yeah, and no one knows for sure if it's Shakespeare's ring, but in 1616, just before he was about to die, not that he knew that.
No.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, maybe he did.
We don't know. He said that he was also in a really healthy and stuff.
Was he singing like a swan?
He sang like a swan to the person, and everyone thought, "Oh no, he's on his way out.
He's about to fly up.
He's about to fly off." Ben, get right in that poem.
Right in,
I think he's off. He changed his will. It previously had said, "Hereunto set my hand and seal," so the seal being the WS on the ring, and he crossed that bit out.
Oh.
So he might have lost his ring, prancing about in his fields, and thought, "Oh, if someone finds that, they're going to pretend to be me, and they can change my will." So don't ignore the seal. The seal's no good now.
So that kind of makes sense.
People think it could be his ring, and that he lost it.
I wonder who has that ring now.
It's now in Stratford upon Avon.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah, of course it is. Not everything.
Yeah, boring.
All right, we're nearly there now. Oh
God. Wait, have we had turtle doves yet?
Not yet, but we're not. No, it's not turtle doves. It's not turtle doves. Okay. Calling birds. And the original song was collie birds. And it got changed to calling birds because no one knows what that means.
Yeah, what's a collie bird?
It means black as coal. So it's like blackbirds.
Right, okay.
Who are actually also singing calling birds.
Yeah.
And there's a reference to a blackbird in Shakespeare.
Yes, please.
So Bottom, in Midsummer Night's Dream, he sings a song when he refers to a male blackbird as the ouzelcock, which I just think that's just been a nightmare for English teachers.
Yeah.
Trying to teach Midsummer Night's Dream in GCSE English.
So wait, he's calling the blackbird an ouzelcock.
The ouzelcock.
Ouzel.
Ouzel. Cock.
And he's made that up.
I think that was maybe another. That was another. I was hoping you weren't going to ask me more questions about that. That's a shame that's where you had follow-up questions, really.
I just want to know all about the ouzelcock.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll do a deep dive on the ouzelcock next Christmas.
Next Christmas. A whole episode dedicated to
I'll spend a year. I'll spend my next year just researching that. Okay. We're on the home straight now.
On the home straight. Here we are. Three
French hens.
French hens. Obviously.
This is, after the milkmaids, this is my most tenuous one. There are 3 kings, all called Henry.
Very nice. 3 hens.
And they all have relationships with France in various ways.
That's good.
So Henry IV is banished to France. Henry V, his son, invades France.
Gotcha.
Battle of Agincourt, famously. And then Henry VI, his son, loses France.
Nightmare for him.
Joan of Arc comes and beats him up. Yeah. And funnily enough, Henry VI is actually split into 3 plays, but part 1 came out last.
What?
So he wrote part 2, then part 3, and then went back and wrote part 1.
What? He hadn't written part 1 first?
No. Well, I think people think it might be kind of like Star Wars.
Oh,
it's like Henry V, part 1, The Phantom Henry. And everyone was like, "Oh, but where? I want to know more." You know. And Joan of Arc shows up with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
2.
Oh,
you've got it. You've already said it, mate.
2. What have I?
Yeah.
2. Oh.
Turtle doves.
Oh, did I say that earlier?
You said that earlier. Oh. You were asking if we'd had turtle doves, and now we have.
Okay.
Do you know why they're called turtle doves?
Doves looks like turtles.
It's not.
No.
That's what I thought too. Yeah. But it's because they go tur.
Oh, they do.
So they just sound like they're saying turtle.
Really? That's why they called that?
That's why they called it. Nothing to do with it.
They do sound like they're saying turtle now I think about it.
Yeah. Do you listen to a lot of turtle doves?
Well, I'm
Do you spend a lot of time?
I know. I'm just thinking when your impression was so good, I thought I was in a room with a turtle.
That was
dove
the other
in it.
thing. I spent
Yeah.
half the year doing milkmaids,
Yeah.
half the year practicing that impression.
Yeah, so I
And
just
that was
listened
6
back
months
to
well
that.
spent. So, turtle doves, they supposedly represented Venus, the goddess of love, because turtle doves will mourn their dead lovers, and they'll like grieve and stuff.
Wow,
And they'll
that's
return
sad.
to where their partner has died. So they've
Really?
become like symbolic of lovers, of course. And there is a reference to a turtle dove in The Winter's Tale when the grief-stricken Paulina compares herself to a widowed turtle dove
Oh,
as she's still mourning her late husband. Very importantly, though, she doesn't actually say the word dove, so it sounds mental.
what's she saying?
So she says, "You precious winners all, your exultation partake to everyone. I, an old turtle,
No.
will wing me to some withered bough, and there my mate that's never to be found again lament till I am
If
lost."
anything, go with dove. Don't go with turtle.
I, an old turtle.
Okay, one.
Right, we're nearly there. We're
Two,
We're
one.
nearly done.
We're on one.
What?
A
on the
partridge in
first-
a pear tree,
Yes,
of course.
Of course. Now, Shakespeare refers to partridges twice.
Thank God.
Both as examples of slaughtered prey, because basically they were like game birds.
Right,
People
yeah,
would hunt them.
partridge, yeah.
And Henry VIII, he forbade killing partridges.
That's
in
strange for him,
1536. Well,
because he's a big sort of big eater, wasn't he?
big old eater. Well, yeah.
Especially for
It's
those
like-
gamey meats.
This is like one of those examples where it's like you hear that the person who you don't like has done something good, and you're like,
yeah,
oh,
hold on a second.
oh, maybe there's more to them.
Yeah.
And then you read past the headline, and you realise, oh, it's just because he wanted to hunt them, and he didn't want everyone else to kill him.
Oh, so he was hunting them himself.
Yeah.
But
He wanted to make sure there
everyone
was
else.
enough population for him to hunt
Oh,
with his falcons and stuff.
For
So that's why
God's
no one else was
sake.
allowed to kill him.
Right.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
And we're back.
And we're back, Henry.
Classic old Henry VIII. So the first reference, and I'm only going to do the one.
I'm only doing one.
One of the references to a partridge is in Henry VI, Part 2, which is like Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
I suppose.
sure, gotcha.
That's when the Earl of Warwick accuses the Duke of Suffolk of killing the Duke of Gloucester.
I'm with you.
Yep. And he compares Gloucester's death to finding a dead partridge in like a buzzard's nest, even though the buzzard has a clean beak, or a kite. So he says, "Who finds the partridge in the puttock's nest," which is like a buzzard or a kite or something, "but may imagine how the bird was dead, although the kite soar with unbloodied beak.
Ah,
Even so suspicious is this tragedy."
wow. So
So sort of saying, look, mate,
something else.
you're saying you didn't do it, and you're flying around with your unbloodied beak,
Yeah.
but he's dead in your nest.
Yeah,
So what do you think happened?
What do you expect here?
Yeah.
So he's saying that bird has gone off to a little stream and
And-
just washed his little
Yeah,
beak
washed his little beak off
in case anyone was
in
going
case
to go, hold
anyone's
on,
going
mate.
to do
What-
DNA
Yeah, why
testing.
you got a bloody beak?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
analogy. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but in his hurry to
But
go and wash his
he's
beak
left the
off,
bloody body
he's
in the-
left the bloody
Nice.
body in his bloody
That's
nest.
schoolboy error.
That's it.
The 12 Days of Christmas.
That's the 12 days of
as
Christmas.
performed by Kaffe Keating.
Yes.
I absolutely love that. I learned a lot.
We'll see if it makes it into the actual podcast.
Well, if it doesn't, the podcast is only going to be 5 minutes long, Kaffe.
Right, because I've used up all the time.
Because my research is not quite as in-depth as yours.
We'll
We'll
see.
be on to my research next after these jingling bells. Welcome back after those jingling bells. I've got a few things for you, Kaffe.
Let's go.
So, have you heard of mumming?
Mumming as in like doing plays.
Well, plays of sorts.
Okay.
What do you think of as,
Was
as
it
when you
like-
hear the word mumming?
Would people go and sort of perform weird little plays in people's houses?
Yeah, so that's the vibe.
Right.
Quite a bizarre little tradition
Okay.
that's been going on for hundreds of years. So to go mumming was this popular pastime. It happened across the country during the 12 Days of Christmas.
Ah.
And mummers were basically a bunch of mates, and they all dressed up, put little masks on, and they tried to disguise themselves. So they tried to make themselves unrecognizable so that your neighbours and stuff couldn't identify who you were.
So you could say some really horrible stuff.
Wow. Well,
come on with some really offensive.
You could do some horrible
so I
things.
reckon that's Clive who said that. I reckon Clive's
But I
Clive's
couldn't
thought
work it
that,
out.
but I couldn't.
Not with that mask
He's
on.
unrecognisable.
So there are references to animal masks being worn and odd clothes.
Okay, sounds very pagan.
Yes, this is such a bizarre tradition.
Classic pagan things, which everyone's like, gets co-opted.
Exactly.
In a Christian festival, but it's like, that's not Christian.
It's weird.
That's not in the Bible, is it?
But there was often dressing as the opposite gender as well to throw people off the scent. And it was also like, I think it was quite scary. So people were saying that they were frightened by these, what was being quoted as hideous figures.
Would you invite them in? Or would they
I think
kick the door down?
They'd actually smash all your windows.
Perform at you.
No, you would invite them in, but I guess you'd be scared. You'd be like, "Oh God, come on in," something like that.
That's how you responded when I arrived today.
Was exactly, especially when
you were horrified when that's what it was.
It was the mask.
It was the horrific
I thought
animal
you were
mask.
mumming. So, this person described it as a sort of olden day horror film.
Right.
So actually terrifying. Why the hell are you doing this at Christmas is my first question.
I know.
This is sort of the time of merriment.
Yeah, we're all going to get together, me and my mates, put on our animal masks and scare the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be calling the police today, wouldn't you, if
you
that
would.
happened?
You
if
would.
we went mumming right now, we put on some masks, we went round to my neighbours, we knocked on their door and sort of forced our way in.
And then performed.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a nice bit of theatre.
What would we do? What play would we do?
Well, do you want to know what they did once they got in? So once they were in the house, and they had to be invited in, crucially.
Like a vampire.
Like a vampire.
Was the word mama, was that sort of like to try and get them, because it sounds like, oh, mum, it sounds something nice.
We'll get to why it was called mumming.
Okay.
And a large element of the experience was actually to try and guess who was under the masks or who was who. So you'd be like, I think that's Todd. I went for Todd. Who's called Todd's?
Very American.
Pretty American.
Very American.
I think that's Todd.
I think that's Todd.
So that's sort of part of the game. I reckon it'd be pretty easy back in the day to sort of guess who's wearing.
Well, in a village of 6 people.
Well, exactly. You'd be like, well, it's obviously
it's
you.
one of the other 5 people
That's
in
the
the
end
village.
of the game.
If you're doing that in London, it'd be quite difficult.
That's true. In London, I mean, it depends also how far afield you go, or do you stay sort of on your street?
Yeah.
The first part of the tradition was to play a game of dice. This is truly insane. This part.
This is batty.
So they roll some dice,
right?
And the dice decided whether to relieve the householder of their money. I mean, when I was reading this, I was like, "That can't be right."
They're just robbers.
Yeah,
it's
just robbing.
It's just showing up
so it's
in a mask and taking someone's money.
Yeah, but it's sort of, they make it like this game. It's like, hold on, who's got the dice? And apparently some people weighted the dice. so it's all rigged.
So how would they take all their money?
Well, I guess what I imagine is
it's
there's
like,
this
you
little
give
pot
us a
of money,
little,
you give us a,
it's like
we're rolling the
trick-or-treating.
dice, oh yeah, go on then, give us a bit of money. It's not like, oh no, now you're bankrupt. Unlucky. Give us all of your money.
You're gonna have your house
every year
repossessed.
would be terrifying. You'd be like, oh God, I hope the mamas don't come take all my money this year. So the other games were enjoyed along with songs and drinks. So once you've lost all your money, you've got some nice songs and drinks to look forward to.
Okay,
so that's nice.
So, but it was like a horror film.
So yeah, it sounded like it was quite a sort of scary, intimidating experience. But then there was, I think, maybe initially quite scary.
The sort of yin and yang of it all.
Yeah, and then you get over it. You give them all your money and you have a good time. You have a nice little song and dance. Now we get on to why it's called mumming. So the mummers, they couldn't actually speak real words, actual words. All they could say was mum.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely
so just
terrifying.
mum. Yeah, terrifying. Yeah.
Mum. Mum.
Scary. Well, when
Really?
you do it like that.
Well, yeah.
So, and people think that is actually the origin of mum's the word. If you can't speak real words.
So you just say mum.
Yeah. So there you go, Kaffe. That is mumming.
Okay. I think we should bring it back.
Okay, Kaffe.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you some games.
Great.
That people would have played around Shakespeare's time. And I want you to guess, actually. I'll give you the name of the game.
Okay.
And then I want you to guess what you think that entailed.
Yeah.
So the first game is Hot Cockles.
Okay. I'm trying not to say the first thing that comes into my head.
Wow.
Well, you never know.
You never know
You
with
never
these
know,
games. These games are wild.
I imagine is it like a hot stone which gets heated up and then you've got to like not hang on to it for too long.
That's a hell of a game. Actually,
throw it between you, kind of like hot potato.
that would fit into one of these games, but it's not. And I think Hot Cockles has developed into a sort of game that I probably played at school, like secondary school, like similar vibe.
Okay, explain the game then.
So,
because
one player sits down, another player is blindfolded, kneels. Okay, careful.
Okay.
It's not going where you think.
What kind of school did you go to?
And places his or her head in the sitter's lap.
Right.
Okay, careful.
You played this at school?
No, I'm saying just variations.
What, like
the kneeler
whose
places an open hand on his or her back with the palm uppermost, which other players take it in turns to strike.
What?
The kneeler must guess who has struck the blow. Insane.
What?
Okay,
No, it's too late. When did you play this?
No, so I was just thinking about I was going very loosely over the years. This has just developed into, you know, that game where you like hold your palms together and then you have to
like slaps.
slaps.
Oh.
I haven't played anything quite like this.
All right.
But sort of general slapping.
I was really concerned for you then.
So you didn't play Hot Cockles when you were in primary school?
Okay, everyone. It's a game of Hot Cockles.
All right, where's the blindfold?
Where's the blindfold?
Get on your knees,
right,
put your head in my
get on
lap.
your knees, put your lap, and we're going to strike you. In turn.
Bizarre.
Who struck
Yeah.
me?
So the game is to just guess who struck you. Right, we're moving on. That's Hot Cockles.
That's also what we're going to name our band, isn't it?
Yeah, the Hot Cockles.
The Hot Cockles.
This is Snapdragon.
Ooh. These are very good names.
Good names. They get worse, actually.
Okay, right.
Okay, go on. What do you think Snapdragon's all about?
Snapdragon. I imagine someone is the dragon and they're trying to like catch you. They're trying to like snap their teeth closed and get you.
Close. No, not close.
Okay, all right.
Sorry. But this is one that definitely you couldn't get away with this now. Health and safety would be all over the place.
All right.
So this is played during Christmas time. Brandy was heated and placed in a wide, shallow bowl. Raisins were placed in the brandy, which was then set alight. Typically, lights were extinguished or dimmed to increase the eerie effect of the blue flames playing across the liquor. The game is described by Samuel Johnson as a play in which they catch raisins out of burning brandy and extinguish them by closing their mouth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like Tequila Slammers.
Yeah.
No, not like Tequila Slammers. Like Sambuca, like Flaming Sambuca.
Yeah, Flaming Sambuca. Yeah. So you take you have to pick a raisin out of flaming brandy and then extinguish it in your mouth. And kids played this.
That is insane.
Yeah. And there was a reference in Tatler magazine. The wantonness of the thing was to see each other look like a demon as we burnt ourselves and snatched out the fruit.
So you get it with your hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Straight in the mouth.
Straight in the mouth. Extinguish. Painful.
Looking like a demon.
Yeah. Painful in your hands. Painful in your mouth.
And that would just be like, oh, Tim's burnt his mouth.
Yeah.
Snapdragon.
Yeah. Oh, they've all got burnt mouths.
They've all got burnt mouths.
And then they've got to eat Christmas dinner. It's a nightmare.
Maybe it's good because, as discussed on the last year's podcast, Christmas dinner was maybe not super tasty.
A bit grim.
So maybe playing Snapdragon was a way to get through it.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Right, we're moving on. This one doesn't even have a title, so I can't even let you guess. It
Okay,
will be quite...
let's make up a title for it afterwards.
Okay, so this one is truly, truly bizarre, and I can't really work out what the actual game is.
Okay.
So a young man is seated upon a pole, right? Picture this. Picture this. So I've actually seen the diagram of this, and there's a pole sort of placed between two chairs.
Horizontally, right?
Yeah. So you're sort of on a pole. Yeah, no, horizontally.
Well,
crucially horizontally.
Yeah.
And the pole is balanced between two chairs, so you're off the floor.
Okay.
So you're sort of like
Balancing.
You're balancing on it.
Okay.
Immediately beneath you is, well, I don't know why I said you. Beneath him, you're not doing this, are you? Immediately beneath him is a vessel nearly filled with water. He holds a taper in each hand, and one of these...
A candle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of these is lighted. His business, I presume... So the person who's describing this has seen this and still doesn't really know what's going on. His business, I presume... is to bring both together and light the other.
Okay.
So they had to be careful not to lose their balance during the task, because then obviously they'd fall in the water.
So he's balancing.
Yeah, he's
on
balancing
this pole, and he needs to light
the other candle.
one candle with the other candle.
Seems dangerous again.
It does. Again, fire always
Don't
involved.
get the fire out. Not with the kids. That's mad.
It's just when there's nothing else to do, though, isn't it? This is what you
who
end up coming
came
up
up with that? Okay, next one. Shoe and mare.
Shoe and mare. So is it something to do with someone has to kick someone? Someone has to tickle someone's bottom of someone's foot?
This is a bit weird. This is a bit weird again, isn't it? Obviously, they're all a bit weird. This game involved men and women pretending to be a horse or a blacksmith.
Okay.
A woman, the mare,
Of course.
would sit on a stool with her legs crossed. Okay?
Right.
While a man, the farrier, pretended to shoe her, mimicking hammering on her shoe or foot. The farrier would often make comically exaggerated movements, and the mare would pretend to be unruly, trying to kick them away.
That's the game.
That's a game.
That
is the game. Shoe and mare.
Right. Should we have a quick game of shoe and
Quick
mare?
game of shoe and mare, anyone?
Oh, I'm really good at shoe and mare.
If anyone listening can introduce shoe or mare to their family this Christmas, I'd love to see a little video of that. Ready for the next one?
Always.
The King of the Bean.
This is so good. The King of the Bean. So
this does actually tie into last year's episode. We talked about a tradition.
We talked about the King of Bliss.
No,
It's
so
not
this is
that.
to do with food, kind of.
The King of the Bean. So someone sets a bean on fire?
No.
Oh.
But there's okay, so I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah.
There's a bean. And it was baked into the 12th night cake. I feel like we talked about this last year.
We talked about 12th night.
Yeah, so there's a 12th night cake
Oh.
that they baked.
Okay.
And a bean was baked into this, or bean or a pea.
Okay.
Jury's out on that one.
And you got to find
It
it.
was baked in, and whoever got the slice with the pea or bean in it, they would be called the king or queen for the evening.
Of the bean, though.
Of the, crucially,
Just of the bean. There's no real power.
Well, there is some power.
Oh, okay.
So the monarch could issue playful commands, and everyone else had to obey, regardless of how absurd or embarrassing they were.
This is starting to make more sense of how some of these games came about.
That's true. Yeah.
I think that King of the Bean is the source of all of this madness.
Yeah. I'm king of the bean, and I declare that we play shoe and mare.
Yeah. What's shoe and mare?
Well, let me tell you.
Yeah, that is exactly what a sort of 6-year-old with too much power would come up with.
And I'm going to leave you with this last one.
Okay.
It's called the cushion dance.
Okay.
Pretty self-explanatory, this one, but...
I imagine it's you have a cushion that you're holding.
Yeah.
Pretending to dance with it.
Yeah. Gets weird, though. Okay, so you're right.
Set on fire.
You're right there. Nothing gets set on fire, actually, in this one,
okay.
sadly.
Right.
But, so a group dance, it's a group dance, right? Everyone's involved.
Oh, okay.
Where one person is holding a cushion and they're dancing towards someone else. They would kneel. Again, what's with the kneeling?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Place the cushion at the person's feet and give them a kiss.
All right.
The second person would then repeat the process with someone new, continuing until everyone was involved. This game often grew flirtatious or absurd, depending on the participants' humour. This sounds like a real Me Too scenario.
Yeah. The cushion dance.
The cushion dance.
Oh, Uncle Terry's got the cushion and he's had 3 glasses of wine and
Who gave him the cushion?
He's on his second Baileys and he's got the cushion out.
Oh,
and he's coming out.
Anyone for a cushion dance?
No. Terry, no, we're not doing the cushion dance this year.
Yeah, it's a real horrible one, that one.
If Uncle Terry gets the bean in his cake, we're all in trouble.
Nightmare. So that's a cushion dance, and I imagine probably mostly men that were up for that one. Just going, cushion dance, anyone?
Anyone wants a cushion dance? Anyone fancy a cushion dance? I'm going to just start it.
Yeah,
I'll
start a cushion dance.
I'll start a cushion dance. Yeah. I'm just going to get a cushion dance going.
So I think that's a nice festive one to leave you on, the cushion dance. So any of those games, if you fancy playing them at Christmas, just thank me for giving you the information on those.
Yeah.
I want to see them performed by y'all listening.
A little shoe and mare.
Nothing wrong with a hot cockle.
I mean, King of the Bean's quite
harmless in a way.
Yeah, King of the Bean in the wrong hands could be catastrophic.
The bean in the wrong hands is catastrophic stuff.
Bean corrupts. Bean corrupts absolutely.
Well, Kaffe, we've come to the end. Thanks so much for joining me.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
What a pleasure having you. And I'll see you next year.
Yeah, when we will really be scraping that barrel
we
at
will
that
be
point.
In the weeds next year.
God knows what else there is to talk about Tudor Christmas, but we'll find something.
Oh, we will. And on that note, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.